Hello, mental health friends. Welcome back to our cozy little corner, a meaningful, safe space where we explore the complexities of the mind and heart together. Today, we're diving deep into a really important and often misunderstood topic: how parenting styles can trigger OCD. Before we begin, let's take a moment to pause. If you're comfortable, close your eyes and recall a childhood moment when the pressure to be perfect felt overwhelming. Perhaps it was a time when a small mistake made you feel the world was crashing down. Hold that feeling gently. Today, we'll explore those early experiences with compassion and understanding. Obsessive-compulsive disorder is far more than a preference for neatness or order. It is a serious anxiety disorder that can dominate every aspect of life. At its core, OCD involves intrusive, unwanted thoughts known as obsessions that provoke intense distress and repetitive behaviors or mental acts known as compulsions, performed in an often futile attempt to neutralize or alleviate that distress. Imagine a cycle in which performing a ritual brings momentary relief, only to reinforce the original fear and demand the ritual be repeated, sometimes dozens or hundreds of times a day. These patterns can consume hours and drain emotional energy. The onset of OCD frequently occurs in childhood or adolescence, though it may appear at any age. Because the developing brain is so malleable, early experiences, especially the way we are parented, play a pivotal role in whether these obsessive and compulsive tendencies fade or become entrenched. When was the last time you felt a thought so persistent you couldn't shake it, no matter how much you tried? That relentless loop often lies at the heart of OCD. Our brains rely on a network of regions to regulate fear and habitual responses. In people with OCD, key areas such as the orbitofrontal cortex, anterior cingulate cortex, and basal ganglia interact in ways that keep the brain's threat detection system from switching off. This means that signals meant to warn us about immediate danger can persist long after an event has passed. Parenting serves as the initial software that shapes how these neural circuits adapt to stress. When caregiving is marked by harsh criticism, unpredictable discipline, or emotional unavailability, a child's stress response system, the HPA axis, hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal axis, can become chronically activated. In practical terms, a child who grows up in a home where high expectations are enforced through fear of punishment may internalize the belief that stability and safety only come through rigid control. Those coping patterns, learned in the earliest years, can solidify into the obsessions and compulsions characteristic of OCD. Did you ever feel your heart race at the thought of disappointing a caregiver? That very physical response can become embedded as a lasting pattern. Authoritarian parenting emphasizes strict rules, obedience, and perfection, but it often lacks warmth and empathy. Children raised under such conditions learn that mistakes are unacceptable and that love or approval depends on flawlessness. Over time, this can lead to all-or-nothing thinking, where any deviation from perfection is experienced as total failure. In this environment, children may develop elaborate mental or behavioral rituals to avoid making mistakes. They might recheck assignments endlessly, repeat prayers or phrases just so, or arrange personal belongings with painstaking precision. These rituals initially feel like safety blankets until they grow so demanding that they begin to rule the child's life. What small action have you repeated obsessively in your own life, believing it would shield you from criticism? At the other end of the spectrum, permissive parenting offers abundant affection but few boundaries. While this might seem ideal, children often feel emotionally unanchored without clear guidelines. They may develop a heightened need for self-imposed structure, creating strict personal routines to compensate for the lack of external rules. Because they have not been taught to trust internal judgments, these children often depend on external validation from peers or social media to feel secure. In the absence of consistent caregiver feedback, they turn inward and devise rituals, such as rigid schedules or obsessive journaling, to create a sense of predictability. Ironically, what begins as an attempt to self-soothe can evolve into compulsive behavior. Have you ever imposed a routine on yourself so rigid it caused more stress than relief? Neglect can occur when a child's emotional needs are routinely ignored, whether due to parental preoccupation, emotional unavailability, or indifference. Without reliable emotional support, a child may begin to equate personal worth with observable achievements. In an effort to capture attention, or simply to feel something, they might adopt perfectionistic behaviors or self-soothing rituals. A teenager might become consumed with flawless academic performance, while another child might repeat comforting routines, like specific hand-washing sequences, to fill the void left by absent affection. Over time, these adaptive strategies can become maladaptive, reinforcing the cycle of obsession and compulsion. If you ever felt invisible growing up, know that your efforts to be seen were born from a valid, human need for connection. The critical or loving words of our caregivers don't just vanish, they can echo in our minds for years. A harsh reprimand may transform into a relentless inner critic, while compassionate guidance can foster an inner voice that offers comfort and perspective. When the inner voice is dominated by fear or judgment, every small misstep can feel like a looming catastrophe. The good news is that we can learn to retrain this voice. By recognizing and naming the negative self-talk, we create space to dialogue with it, challenging its assumptions and softening its tone. Try this when that critical voice pipes up next. Imagine you're speaking to a younger you who is scared and unsure. What compassionate words would you share? Of course, parenting isn't the only factor. Many children and adults are also influenced by high-stakes academic environments, peer-driven expectations, and social media's glossy portrayals of perfection. In schools that rank students, children may feel their worth is tied to numeric grades. Within friend groups, unspoken rules about success or popularity can fuel anxiety. And on social media, life's messiest, most human moments rarely make it to the highlight reel. These external pressures can validate and amplify the obsessive thought patterns and compulsive behaviors seeded by certain parenting experiences. No one posts their 2 a.m. panic attacks online. Remember that what you see is a carefully curated snapshot, not the full story. Although OCD can feel permanent, many people find relief through targeted strategies. Building self-compassion can start with simple daily affirmations, reminding yourself that making mistakes doesn't diminish your worth. Grounding techniques such as mindful breathing or the 5-4-3-2-1 sensory exercise can anchor you in the present moment when anxiety spikes. Cognitive behavioral therapy, particularly exposure and response prevention, ERP, helps rewire the association between obsession and compulsion. Finally, curating social media and establishing healthy digital boundaries can reduce external triggers. When you choose one small step, whether it's a nightly self-compassion journal or a 10-minute breathing break, you begin to rewrite the narrative of fear into one of resilience. Which small strategy will you try today? Remember, you deserve kindness and progress, even if it's just one mindful breath. Thank you for sharing this heart space with me. We've explored how parenting styles, authoritarian, permissive, or negligent, intersect with neurobiology and life's external pressures to shape OCD tendencies. Yet, your story doesn't end with those early experiences. With awareness, self-compassion, and professional support, we can transform fear-based routines into rituals of resilience. Next week, we'll practice a brief, beginner-friendly mindfulness exercise you can weave into your day. Don't miss it, and feel free to share this podcast with friends who might benefit from a reminder that they're not alone. Disclaimer: I'm not a psychologist or a licensed therapist. These ideas come from research, personal reflection, and conversations with experts. If you're experiencing significant distress or symptoms of OCD, please seek help from a qualified mental health professional. You deserve care, compassion, and healing. Take care, dear friends. Until next time.